Welcome to the Makers and Creators panel. Everyone here is a creator, we know that. But what I think makes them unique, and what I think is a theme on this panel, is that there were no roadmaps for how to get to where they got. And they've managed to use media and technology in ways that enabled them, but there was no playbook. And so many of us are in the midst of figuring out, what do I want to do with my platform? And I'm hoping that today, by hearing all of your stories, we can pull from some bits and pieces, threads, and get inspired and figure out how we can get there, even if we don't totally know what there is. So I asked each of them to share their story, where they are, how they got there, and it's just going to be brief so that we can just get grounded and know what everyone's story is. And I think there's a piece in all of these stories that all of us can relate to. So why don't we start with you, Majora?
Sure. Good afternoon, guys. So my name is Majora Carter, and I got my start by actually bringing in world-class green infrastructure, such as parks and greenways, into the places where they were least expected, which is some of America's poorest cities, in particular my neighborhood, the South Bronx in New York City. And so by doing that, we were able to bring to life the fact that there were things like waterfronts in our community, that you could create the kind of parks that could make people happy. We could train people to work in those areas and to do all that. It was a form of a really interesting kind of real estate development that no one was really paying any attention to, like how do you restore a place that's traditionally thought of as nothing more than urban blight. I'm doing the same kind of thing now in terms of the new work that I'm doing, which is another kind of real estate development in more the traditional sense. Whereas there is the Richard Florida model, which is more like you create a cool space and then you attract something called the creative class, of which everyone in this room is, and you attract them into these like underserved communities, and then it becomes a great place to be and live. The way that we're trying to do real estate development is again by bringing world-class infrastructure into those communities and building up the assets that are already there, most notably the people. And so it's not about attracting new folks, it's literally about retaining and supporting them, and technology is the perfect way to do that. We're starting a program called Startup Box South Bronx, and it's a technology education and entrepreneurship program, and it's designed to help the people in our local community start to think of themselves not just as consumers of technology, because the digital divide, as people like to think it exists in poor communities, doesn't really exist anymore. In the poorest places in America, everybody's got a smartphone. You know, we did a bunch of studies around that as well. And so what we're trying to do now is, and I think for many of the folks here know, as bloggers, it's not a traditional job. You can make money in very interesting ways, but again, giving people that opportunity to see themselves more as producers rather than consumers is the way that we're trying to retain and support the beautiful assets that are the human capital within communities that are considered the places where no one thinks anything great can grow. And I'm absolutely looking forward to talking with you more about it.
Thanks, Majora. So Lisa, as the video queen, I'm sure you have a few words to say, but of course we will get video from Lisa.
Yes, my name is Lisa Donovan, and I'm a co-founder of a company called Maker Studios. And we're an online digital media company, and we partner with content creators and help them make their content in studio. And we also have work with channels internationally, and we're across various verticals. And the company was essentially started because I was a content creator, and we partnered with other people who were creating content to make this company. And as you said, we have a video that I know the people at Maker have made that I'm going to see for the first time as well.
Why don't you see the product?
Let's see it.
All right, from YouTube to being a regular on Mad TV, it has been quite a ride for Lisa Donovan.
Lisa Donovan, aka Lisa Nova, welcome to the Big Idea.
Lisa Donovan, cyber celebrity. She's a do-it-yourself internet sketch artist using the name Lisa Nova. And she's gone from being just another struggling actress in Hollywood to a fan-favorite YouTube superstar. Her videos are getting millions of views and building a genuine cult following.
It's amazing what a home video camera and the internet can get you these days. For Lisa Donovan, a YouTube cult favorite, it's landed her a new career.
Good to see ya. Hello, every people. Hello.
Maker Studios is a talent-first network founded by YouTube artists.
When we founded Maker, we wanted to be working with content creators who really didn't see it as a stepping stone, but saw it more as a place to find a home and really build an engaged long-term audience. We're very diverse. We're not in just one category. We're in gaming, music, we're in lifestyle, we're in moms. We just knew we wanted to be in this space and that this was the future. The way it's grown from just out of our house, just a few people to this is amazing. It's massive. We work with a lot of people that really do value what they're creating online. Essentially, they're building their own distribution, and that's a very powerful thing that we want the content creators to take very seriously.
This is the moment, tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over, so we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
There it is.
Wow. You make co-founding a company look kind of fun.
I know, that looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, is there anything else to add? I mean, that's kind of the beauty of video, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots to add. Hopefully, I mean, there's so much to talk about. Hopefully, we'll get to it during.
We're going to jump in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brit?
I don't have a video. Dang it. But you have your amazing bracelets. Oh, I made this. I don't know if it's not as cool as a video, but my name's Brit Morin. I'm the founder of Brit & Co. It's Brit.co if you're on your phone or computer. And my journey started in Silicon Valley. I was working with Apple, and then I spent 4 years at Google. And my last job at Google, I was working on Google TV, which is a product that helps connect the internet to your television so that you can watch Maker Studio videos on YouTube from your television. And I started to just get more and more interested in the media world. And the one thing that stuck out to me was the essence of building a brand. And I think in Silicon Valley, most people launch an app and they just hope it goes viral, and that's their brand. And in LA and New York and all these other creative communities, the focus is really about the brand, and most of them have a person behind it. And I'm sure, like many of you, blogging, I think you're creating a brand. And I've been a blogger my whole life, and never really thought of it as something that could be a career of mine or could tie into something that I love. And so I left Google, and I took a few months off to just figure out what is it that I do love. And I found myself every single day making things, and it was one of my passions as a little girl and a teenager, and I got so entrenched in the technology world that I kind of forgot what that life was like, and when I came back to it, it had changed quite a bit. These days technology is actually part of making things, whether that means that you're finding your inspiration online or looking at tutorials online, or if that means that you're designing something in Illustrator and sending it to be cut on a piece of wood from your laser cutter, or scanning a wine glass and reprinting it in your 3D printer, and programming your digital sewing machine with the stitches that you want to stitch. And I just felt like there's this new generation, I'm sure many of you will resonate with this, who are using all these new tools and who have grown up with technology and using it to live more creatively. And I just felt like that was so interesting, because it was not only my career and professional background, but it was my personal passion and my hobby. And everyone says to find something love and do it as your career. And I saw a way to do that together. And it started as just me, and then we slowly started building it up into more of a platform. So today on Brit & Co, it's Brit and there's a co now. We have not just people in the company, but we are starting to build a network of DIYers and makers, whether that means they're chefs, artists, designers, whoever you are, whoever is doing a creative craft or skill, we are trying to find those people and curate them into our network and start to distribute that among the people that come to our site, which today it's only been 18 months, but we already have millions of visitors and 3 million followers across social media. And so that essence of building a brand has been really powerful and building this business out. We also have a commerce side of the business. So we sell DIY kits called Brit Kits. This bracelet, this rhinestone bracelet was one of our latest kits, but we also do everything from food kits to, all kinds of home decor and everything in between. So it's become, this place where there's content, there's community, and there's commerce, and it's getting bigger and bigger all the time. And I've had the opportunity to also work in traditional media as well. So I'm fortunate enough to work with the Today Show and Katie Couric on her show, and that's really helped contribute to the brand growth. And it's just been a wild ride, but my message is just find what it is that you love, and if you're already doing that, there's so many ways to take it to a bigger level. So I hope I can encourage you to do that.
Great, and I also thank you. And Brit and Lisa, I think we're going to dig in a little bit, because for those of you who are wanting to take your passions to a company, to build a company, even getting venture capital level, I think there's a lot to be learned there. Randi.
Thanks. And I just want to say, I feel like Brit's being humble. She is literally the it girl in Silicon Valley right now. It's legit. Actually, randomly funny story, really quick before. So Brit was she was like, anyone can be a maker. And I was like, you haven't met me, no. And I was like, I grew up in Manhattan, I use my oven for storage, and she was like, let's bedazzle things. And an hour later, when I had managed to maybe get one sequin halfway on, she's like, yeah, no, maybe you should stick to not making.
It's the 80-20 rule, right? 80%.
So now I support Brit in her making. But so it's been a really interesting ride for me. I joined Facebook back in 2005. I worked on the marketing team there and just had the experience of really having a front row seat at how social media and tech changed virtually every industry. I saw elections all over the world, Olympics, big political movements. The really almost the proudest moment of my career was when I hosted President Obama at Facebook to do a live town hall to all of America using a live streaming service that my team helped build.
I think you won an award for that, didn't you?
Maybe. I got nominated for an Emmy for it, but I lost to Anderson Cooper shirtless in a ditch in Haiti. I mean, how can you win against that, really? But I can actually say it was a pleasure to be nominated. But I was also 41 weeks pregnant on that day. The next morning I had my son, and I know all the books say, right when you have a baby, don't make any drastic changes in your life. So what did I do? I quit my job, I bought a new house, I did everything in that one summer, started a company. And I spent that year traveling around a lot, and what was really interesting to me is that normally I would go and speak about social media and business, but no matter where I went in the world, the questions people would ask after was how do I raise my children in the social media world? Or how do I stop my husband from using his iPad in bed so we can have intimacy again in our relationship? And all of these very personal tech questions. And that's what led me to start my own blog, .complicated, about how tech makes our lives amazing and hair-rippingly complicated. And I have 2 books coming out in November on the topic.
Did you bring it out?
Thanks. Am I allowed
to show it? It's adorable.
It?
Yes, you are allowed to.
So as I was writing my book, .complicated, I said to Harper, I have an idea for a children's book. And they're like, sure you do, honey. Everyone has an idea for a children's book. And then, so here is Dot. Dot is
really cute.
a very tech-savvy. She's addicted to her iPhone and her iPad and everything. And over the course of the book, she learns to go play outside like a normal girl.
I need the book. That's wonderful.
Thank
so
you.
it sounds like, I mean, 41 weeks pregnant. Was this an aha moment? Did this lead to the next step? What was it that made you say, okay, quitting the job, changing my life, starting a company, doing whatever?
Insanity,
More
you mean,
things.
besides like
Yeah.
craziness? No, I think, I've always been really, I first met Lisa, I think, years ago, and I was really excited about what she was doing on YouTube, and I felt like there was this really shifting tide in media, and I don't know, I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to be part of the crew that was making this shift. I think also you look at a lot of these women on stage, and for the first time, women aren't in the back in their companies. They are the front. They're the face. And I wanted to join that movement.
Indeed. So you had a great benefit of being at Facebook and understanding the zeitgeist from right inside. You were at Google. You were born in video. But Majora, what I find so interesting about your story is that you used it to your advantage, but would you consider yourself a digital native? I mean, you were doing other media, you were doing TV, you were doing other things, and you had to get up to speed in this. So what happened?
It's a tool like anything else, and whatever tool is at your disposal, you'll use. Hopefully as effectively as you can. So for me, it still is as much about, even if you do use Twitter to get the word out about something, if you're not making the kind of connections that make people want to stay, they're not going to, period. So Lisa's work, in particular, it's like, people want to see, what is this character you're going to do? And they're going to keep following up, and they're going to look for other characters that go along with it. But it's like you're touching people in a different way. And I think that's what, the beautiful thing we have to remember about social media. It's still social.
Do you think, though, that anybody who wants to have an imprint in media, whatever media it is, has to be savvy in social? Or is it, like you say, it's a tool, but how important of a tool? Do you think it needs to be in everyone's handbook?
It's going to be, especially going forward. But again, you have to understand who your audience is, who are you trying to reach, and use the tool to the best of your abilities so that you're reaching the people you want to reach. As well, and making sure that, because especially if you know that you've got something that they need, then figuring out what that tool is going to help them see you.
Well, a big part of your platform is bringing this into urban environments. Can you tell us a bit more about how you're doing that?
It's already there. Again, the whole idea that there's this digital divide in poor communities, it's not really true. Literally everyone has a smartphone. Much of people have internet access in their home or at work or have access to it pretty easily. What we don't have is the abilities to do what a lot of women in this room are doing, which is actually using technology as a tool to make a living. To make their lives happy, to do the things that they want to do. And that's about more accessibility in terms of education and understanding how they can use it as ways to build up their profile, whether it's to get a great job, whether it's to make something, through rapid prototyping. But again, if you're not given an opportunity to learn that stuff, then you probably will not see it. And that's why our model is really innovative, is because we're not saying we're going to take the best and brightest, coming from underserved communities and pull them out and then teach them how to become, work at Google or wherever. It's more about how do we retain the best and the brightest in our own community, set up the infrastructure so they can learn about it in their own community, and then, be the people who are showing others in that community just how great it can be. Really proof positive that you don't have to move out of your neighborhood to live in a better one.
We are going to take questions, but thank you. We're going to take questions, so I just want to make sure you know where the mics are. There are 2 in the back there, and then there are 2 up here. So at any point, just raise your hand so I can see you. It's a little hard, and we'll take your question. Question for everyone here, and I think that another commonality is that you all had to get cred in corporate America. And I think before we started BlogHer, I had this fantasy that I was just going to blog and blog and blog, and someone was going to say, "Oh my God, we need to hire this girl. We need her. We need to publish her book. We need to give her a show. We need to help make her company." It doesn't really work that way. So, at what point? Because I think everyone here is a creator. Everyone builds content, but how did you cross that divide to getting the credibility you needed to play with companies and corporations? Lisa, why don't we start with you?
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. You know, I'd started as a content creator in 2006 on YouTube, but you know, I had a production company and I was an editor and I'd been an actor, so we found YouTube. It was so exciting because you know, it was a place to put a lot of the content we were creating, and it was this whole other world that we hadn't sort of fathomed, and we decided to commit to the space. And I talk about like outliers. Like we put in our 10,000 hours at a time when it didn't really make sense. Nobody even knew what YouTube was or what we were doing. You couldn't even really sort of explain it. And I think by being there at that time and committing and doing the work and becoming sort of the experts in the field, I think there was a certain credibility that we had, and I think we were able to see a business. Basically, after doing it for 3 years, we realized there's other people like us. There's a business here, and we started the business. But I mean, it was debt. It was time. You know, it was not. We didn't have financing in the beginning. We self-funded, and then it was, you know, a year and a half before we went out and worked with investors, and that was a place where we actually had the numbers that proved what we had done. So it's like you have to sort of go out there and be really persistent, and you have to know where you're going, and you have to be committed to it, and it really was. I mean, it was, when we started on YouTube, we literally thought, okay, tomorrow we're gonna have a business, and you know, the advertisers are gonna come. I mean, it was 4 years later before you were making money.
And did you see the time, oh, we're gonna be one of the biggest video aggregator? Did you look at it that way, or how did you come across to the business model side of that?
Yeah. Well, I think it was because we had started to make a business for our own channel, but what had happened is that it's like, it's a lot of work when you're doing it just for yourself, and we thought, okay, look, there's some other people out there in the space like us. What if we came together, we worked together, we shared audience, we shared production resources, we'd be much stronger together, and then we could potentially bring on other people and do it for them. And we realized there was a business in the fact that we were making a living, and there was a business for us, and that if we could sort of help the space grow and you know, have more content creators making more content, that the business would, you know, just grow. The YouTube business would grow and the content creation business would grow. And I mean, of course, it's a leap of faith. It could, maybe YouTube didn't grow and we didn't grow it, you know, but it didn't work out that way, and we believed in it. And I guess that's what you have to be able to believe in it and just keep going.
Just to build on that a little, I think a lot of what you're talking about is the network effect, and that's why I think it's so great what you guys are doing, because for me, networking was like the single biggest thing. And by networking, I don't mean like going to women who'd already made it in their career and like begging them to be a mentor. I meant looking around and seeing other like-minded women like myself who were, you know, creating value for other people's companies, but like I just knew that one day they were gonna do something. And like, over the past 8 years, I've seen, you know, like now Brit has an amazing company. Lisa, Majora, I wish I knew you 8 years ago, because I feel like we would have been like best friends. But I've seen so many women now rise to become investors, to be founders, and they all help each other out. And it's because you network with people, even when they can't add any value to you. You network because like you want to be helpful, and because you see that there's a potential in every relationship.
And I have to say that, I mean, obviously working at a corporate company like Google or Facebook, you know, helps, and you get to learn business development and marketing. And for me, I learned a lot about tech, so I was working with engineers a lot and designing apps and websites. But there's really no better training you can give yourself than to just start a company, and you basically get an MBA in like a week.
It's so true. Yeah.
You have to learn it all. You have to do accounting. You have to. There's so. I hate accounting. That's the worst. And I've outsourced that now.
I mean, in some cases,
but I had to do it at first. And you also, it's like, even if you start to have, you know, a team of some sort, like, the first year or two is really tough. Like, you know, you've got to give it time to grow and be patient and building that network and building those relationships. You know, it does take time. You're building a brand. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not a viral app. So just, I think there's a patience factor too, especially for this world and this generation of like, I want it now. It's just like, you know, waiting a little bit and knowing that what you're doing is right and good.
So Brit, I think patience is a wonderful thing. Although when you take venture capital, sometimes it accelerates the timeline a little bit. Could you talk a bit more about what has changed when you took on, congratulations on your round, and how that changes the business dynamic? And like you said, you had to get up to speed, but I imagine there's a little more that goes on with that.
You know, it's hard in some ways because you're giving away part of your company and you're under a lot more pressure to make it succeed. But at the same time, you've got this invaluable network of people who have seen this all before and know and have a network of their own that they can help introduce you to. And given, you know, funding, you're able to hire more people, and so you're able to do what you want to do, but do it faster. And so I think that the thing to figure out before you raise capital is you know, is the business model right? Am I growing? And once you have growth and you know you're on a solid trajectory, and if you just had more people or the more relationships, like you could take it to another level, then I think it's the right time to raise money.
And how important was your platform when you did that versus your business model? Because I know that it's like with publishing, and what Guy Kawasaki said yesterday about getting a book published. If you have the platform, it's a lot easier to get published than if you don't.
In terms of the number of people and growth? Yeah. Yes. Well, I think that goes hand in hand. Like, there's really not a business model if you don't have a platform. So you need people to be invested in what you're doing, and, you know, hopefully people love what you're doing and want, you know, to come back to it over and over again, or to buy from you even. But that, I mean, I think they go hand in hand. And these days, you know, we raised money from tech investors and media investors. Is very similar to Randi. I mean, we're kind of like really abnormal companies in Silicon Valley. Like, people don't know what to do with us because we're creating content and
crazy
video but also have like engineers, and so like people don't get it. So I did like the LA round, the New York round, the Silicon Valley round, and like had to just find people who got the vision, and that was one of the hardest parts about it. But, you know, they look at your growth and they look at kind of what's the big picture here? Where do you want to take this in 10 years? And that's what they want to invest in.
It's exciting, but you also have to have an answer.
Yes, you do have to have
where
an
you
answer.
want to take it, right?
Yeah.
And so how much of a vision did you have to have? And Randi, for you too, because you're building, and Lisa, I know that you had to have an idea of how you're going to get to where you're going to go.
But that's even, I mean, the point about, you know, some people take investment when it's just an idea, and they're saying, you know, I want to create a website, or I want to do this. So I think this is a little bit different in that, you know, we'd proven something out, or you had this brand, and so then you're saying, okay, this is where it's at, this is where I want to go. And sometimes that's a better way to go. You're able to sort of keep a little more control of your company and your vision when you've proven something. And I think, when we took it, we definitely had a vision. And it's about investment. It's saying, look, this is where it's going to be in a year, and we want to take this there. And that's why we need this investment. And it's about losing the money of that investment to eventually make it, you know, a year or two later. So, yeah.
So, Majora, you had been on TV. The first time I ever saw you was on TV. And for so many in this audience, I am sure that is considered the next step versus I'm going to do TV, and then I'm going to do digital. How did you build that ability to, I mean, a regular calling you as the expert? How did you become that expert that TV would turn to and that stations would turn to?
Because I was a complete oxymoron at the time. I mean, I was at the time when people, if they bothered to think about environmentalists, they were generally white, male, and old. And there I was, you know, cute, young, black, and female. So it was sort of like, oh, well, she's interesting. So that was one of the things that made it kind of fun. Not that it made it any easier for me to be taken seriously. That worked in my, that was a problem, but I still did it. So clearly it was all good. But yeah, it was a wonderful platform to be out there and to get myself out there. But quite frankly, it's, since I do have a really interesting brand, and it is very attractive to a lot of people, what I want to do now is take it, and I was able to use that as a platform. Like, for example, I had my own radio show and used that as a way to lift up other folks that I thought were doing some really interesting stories that basically weren't getting told in a lot of ways. And so I'm actually going to be starting a blog also called The Promised Land, the same as my radio show, and it's all about people who take the chance to build the promised land right here, right now. And it's just, I cannot wait to actually get started and to get it out there for all of you to see and read. And but the whole idea is, it's, again, who are you trying to impact and whose life are you trying to make better? And by sharing a little bit of yourself with them. And the hope is that, and because you've done your research, is that you know that there are people who are aching for exactly what it is that you're selling. Mm-hmm. And it's putting it out there in a way for them to access it easily.
There's so many women here who have a very strong purpose and are trying to get that out into the world, but it feels like a different language speaking to media. How did you develop that?
I also have to thank my incredible husband, who worked in advertising for much of his career and selling people, stuff that they didn't really need or want and making them believe that they did. And when we met, he was like, actually, you've got something that people need, and let's figure out how to package you to make sure that people understand that it's what they want. And so we worked on, I was one of the first original TED Talks when they were released online. I was one of the 6 that came out, and I worked on that with my husband, actually doing the presentation and how do you do visuals and words and gestures and everything else to really put it out there so people could hear and really feel what I was talking about. Because I was talking about some stuff that was upsetting to a lot of people in a lot of different ways. But they listened, and it was a really interesting thing. So I think that has been the most important thing. How do you set yourself up so that people can hear you?
While we're on the subject of television, Randi, you had a stint executive producing a show.
It was awesome.
And so I'm dying to hear about this because, of course, I'm a little addicted to Bravo. And just can you talk about the experience of producing the show, what you learned from it?
Yeah. So as you can see from my book, Dot, one of my real passions is encouraging more young women to go into technology. And I've sat at so many tables with men where they're like, the answer is just forcing girls to take computer science in school. And I was like, no, the answer is making it sexy in pop culture. That's the only way that you're gonna get girls to think it's cool to go into tech, to go into engineering. So when first Bravo approached me asking if I would star in a reality show, and I was like, oh, that's really funny. No way. And then about a month later, they came back saying, we really want to do this show. Would you consider EPing the show? It was also really interesting for me from a career perspective because after I left Facebook, I thought that I would just march down to Hollywood and everyone would want to meet with me because I was on the forefront of new video and new media. And I got there and people were like, oh, that's so cute, that online video stuff. It really wasn't until I worked with Bravo that I had to earn my cred. You talk about earning cred, I had to earn it in a new industry. And in the industry of Hollywood, that means being involved with a show that goes to series on television. So that really opened a lot of new doors for me.
So what does that mean to executive produce for everyone because it sounds great, but what are you doing?
It means very different things on almost every different show. Some shows, it's purely financial. Some shows, the executive producers are incredibly involved on set, shaping the script. My involvement with the show is really trying to make sure that every episode had at least 1 or 2 things that would actually maybe happen in Silicon Valley. And so consulting on the edits and the cuts and actually saying, this would happen in a meeting pitching a VC, this wouldn't happen.
So did you okay the girl that fell asleep under the table during the pitch to Dave McClure? I have to know. And did he really just sit there?
That actually happened.
Wow.
And I have to say those two, that brother-sister duo, they're larger than life. They're so colorful. Like if you met them in real life, you'd be like, you guys are born for reality TV. So a lot of it is, you know, really authentically capturing the lives of these people. But it is hard because a lot of Silicon Valley is engineers sitting and programming in their room, and then they're programming on the train, and then they're programming in their apartment. That does not make for great TV. So you have to kind of find the fringe, colorful characters on the outside.
Brilliant. I have to say I had a lot of fun with that.
Thank you.
So I want to make sure if we have just a few minutes, so I want to make sure if there's any questions, we get them. So please don't be shy. Do we have one? Yes. We have one over here. Is the mic on? Mic on?
You finally have someone to ask a question. Turn the microphone on, please. Hi, my name is Lauren Herpick. I publish an online magazine called Why Not Girl. I'm based out of the Bay Area, so Brit, I would love to treat you to coffee one day because you're like my current girl crush. I love you. But this question is for you though. I would really like to know what the decision was like in order to make you be part of the brand, because it's been really impressive. And you know, right now I have Why Not Girl. I don't necessarily want to be the Why Not Girl, but I sometimes wonder if Why Not Girl would be better. And I'm using Why Not Girl very often, so you all know who I am. If it would gain more traction by having a personality. So can you talk a little bit about how you came to the decision of being Brit and Co?
Yeah, this was a really big, scary decision for me. You know, it started because I was working on Google TV, like I was talking about earlier, and everybody I was interfacing with in that world, and from the media perspective, like every TV show has a person behind the camera. Like you don't watch the Target TV show, right? Like you watch Rachel Ray or Giada or Martha, and it's because, you know, as humans, we're biologically like tuned to interact with other humans, and we trust them and we want to learn from them. And for me, like Brit & Co is largely about, you know, the maker world and DIY and craft and food, and those are things that need to be taught, and you need a teacher. And so I knew that I had to play a part to some extent, not saying that I'm like the expert teacher in every single thing. In fact, in some cases, I'm more of the student, and that's kind of why we made the Co, because I know that like there's gonna be an expert goat cheese maker and a cowboy boot maker and a jewelry designer, and like I'm not going to be the expert at all of that. So, you know, I didn't call it Brit Morin, and it took me a while to come to that conclusion. But I do think the Brit piece is important, but just be prepared, because as much as like some people will love it and you can relate to that person much better, like you're gonna open yourself up, you know, to be in the spotlight and to get criticized as well, and you just have to take it. And I do think the trade-off is worth it, though. So I think if you're thinking about changing Why Not Girl into something that's more personal, I would be supportive of that. I think our world right now as a society is like coming back to like being more personal and being about relationships as well. So I think that culturally it's becoming a trend again.
And it's a great lesson for anyone who feels, well, I'm not really an expert. You don't necessarily need to be. You need to have the passion, and then you can bring in the expertise where you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. It's great. Another question.
Yes. Hello, ladies. My name is Liza Monet Morales, and I too have a blog. It's called My Life is Liza, so xoxoliza.com. The question that I had for you, and I think Brit, you mentioned this, and Randi a little bit, is in terms of giving back. I'm all about Malcolm Gladwell and 10,000 hours and being that outlier. One thing that I've noticed as I've continued to grow older is that I now have a new generation of my cousins and people within my Latino community that ask me how I did it, and especially being women, because even though we see them all here, it's like I wish I could bring everyone here with me, we're still not seeing necessarily the faces. And I love this panel because it is so diverse in terms of cultural, in terms of just age and everything. So I would just say, for you guys, in terms of giving back, what advice, if we could go down the line, would you have given yourself, your younger self maybe, for success, to how to go through it? Especially with so much technology, I almost feel like it's too many options for some girls that they do shut down.
That's a good question. Good question.
That's a really good question.
Wow.
That is a serious question.
We could have a whole panel on
Randy's
that
going to start.
Oh my gosh, wow, thanks guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think you're right. I think it's really, really important to recognize, like, every single day I wake up and, like, I'm so thankful for how lucky I've been and feel like I have a real responsibility to give back and to share the love with other women, especially. I think what's interesting is that some of the tools that we've created that help all of us have a voice are also the same tools that, like, make our lives infuriatingly difficult. I mean, so this is really, like, the topic that I'm writing my book on right now. You know, the fact that any of us can now reach thousands of people and be a brand, and also comes with the fact that thousands of people can now scream back at us, or that, you know, you can tweet something that gets you in trouble just as quickly as it doesn't. And I think if I could have sat younger me down, I would have maybe been a little more responsible in how I personally use those tools, and I would have, like, maybe, you know, think before you tweet a little more in a few situations. And you know, a lot of us in our generation, we're the first generation of moms especially who didn't grow up with digital and are getting lapped by our children, like, no matter how tech savvy we are, which is terrifying. And so I think I would have maybe also told myself to, like, give myself a break and go easy.
For me, I think it would be to continue to selectively choose who you surround yourself with. I think that you can be brought up so high if you surround yourself with people who are so positive and happy and successful and smart, and you know, what is the phrase, like, you are the immediate result of the 5 people closest to you. And so making those decisions on, like, who you spend your time with, you know, from a friend level, from a family level, from a sort of career professional level, is really, really important. And if you pick the wrong people, like, they can drag you down really easily. So I'm really an optimistic person, and I believe that, like, you should be chasing your dreams and, like, take risks and go after it. And it's only because I've been, like, sort of ingrained by the people around me to think that way.
I think I would just have trusted my own instincts more. I think as a female, like, you tend to want to, or me at least, want to please more, and especially, you know, it's usually men that you are surrounded with in business, and there weren't as many other females around, and I think you have to just know and listen to yourself and your intuition, and I found that when I did, things sort of worked out, and when you go against that and you ignore that, it tends to take you down the wrong path. So I would have just taken more breaths, listened to myself, and, you know, followed my intuition. And I mean, everything's worked out. It's fine. It's more just, I think that's a hard lesson, and a hard lesson for females to learn.
Tell your cousins and your nieces, they need to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes, that's so
love
good.
that.
Period.
You're going to be really uncomfortable. It's so true.
I mean, it's, you stick your neck out there, somebody's going to try to cut it off.
Yes.
And you know what? And for the most part, they will miss because they've got crappy aim and they have no vision, and you know where the back door is.
I love it.
That's
So they'll be fine, I promise. But it is not easy, and you will learn very quickly who your friends are not.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Now, do we have time for one more? I look over to Elisa. We do. Yes.
Hi, I'm Karen Lee Potter, and I do a show called Love Encore, and it's a YouTube show. And I saw Lisa up here. I'm like, this is unbelievable. I just have a question. My show is about dating, sex, and relationships second time around. And I'm obviously older, and I'm growing my views. They're getting bigger and bigger, but to get noticed by, like, Maker Studio or someone like that, what would your tip be?
Well, it's good. You're here. I see you. Let's make it happen. I'm going to go check out your channel. Yeah, I think, I mean, YouTube's tough because everybody's there, and it's, you know, everybody's there now, too. It's, you know, when I started, the community was tiny. There was like 10 of us, right? So, you know, to have a huge video took nothing, right? But now it is tough, you know, and you really want to reach out to other people that are making, hopefully, like-minded content, and so be a part of sort of their community or their network, and see if you can collaborate with them. That's sort of what our company was based on, is collaboration. And hey, I'll take my audience, I'm going to drive it to yours, and you drive it to mine. And you know, you want to sort of be collabing with people in your space. And if it's a new space, that's even more difficult. if you're in a content category that's not as big on YouTube, and it'll take time. Like when we started the Moms U, there was no moms on YouTube, you know, and there was nothing, and I was tasked with starting the Moms channel, and you know, it worked out, you know, but we put a lot of people together that were making sort of like-minded content and invested in new content, and it might take time, but I think you just got to keep doing it and reach out to other people in the space, and I'd love to see what you're doing. What's your channels? What is it?
It's Love Encore. My name is Karen Lee Potter. My YouTube channel is Karen Lee Potter.
Oh, the channel is called Karen Lee.
Lee Potter. That's my name.
Okay.
So I'll share a business card with you later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fabulous. And I know that people have to get to sessions, and of course, I'm inviting our lovely panelists to please hang out if they can for some of the other questions you have. I just want to, on behalf of myself and Elisa and Lisa, thank you for joining us this year. It really was special having you. Majora, Lisa, Brit, Randi. Thank you.